What up? Uncle Benji here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue on with the oral history of my collection, and we're going to be talking about an album here called Celestial Clockwork from the artist Illogic. And this is an album that I have here on vinyl. I have here on a newer edition of vinyl, and then I also have the CD here that I originally bought back in 2004 was when this came out. So as I've talked about in previous videos, I wasn't really buying vinyl till about 2013. So I first went back and bought the original vinyl here secondhand, probably sometime in that 2013 to 2020 range. I'm not sure exactly when I bought it. And then they put out this reissue with bonus songs on here more recently. It's really cool to have like an updated version of it. But man, when I say this was a very, very important album to me, I can't, overstate that enough. Because at the time when this came out, I was really trying to make music. I was in Philly, I was rapping, I was writing rhymes, and Illogic was one of those guys that set the bar extremely high for any of us that were taking rhyming very seriously. And this was a really anticipated album when it came out. It wasn't like I'd been a fan of Illogic for years. It really only been about a year, but I was still very much anticipating it. To give you a little history of how I got into Illogic, I'll start there. This album, The Weightroom, from the artist Blueprint, was a very, very important album for me. It's really like a compilation of everything he was doing on his Weightless Recordings label. He had a group, Greenhouse Effect, and he also was making music with Illogic. He was based out of Cincinnati, Blueprint, while Illogic was out of Columbus. But there was a really good hip-hop community in Ohio at this time. This event, Scribble Jam, that brought kind of everyone from the Midwest that was really into underground hip-hop in from the East Coast together to have battles in person. MF Doom showed up there one year. It wasn't an event that I ever got to attend, but man, I'm very jealous of anyone who got to attend those events, because there was a lot of MCs that were connecting and learning about what was going on in other regions, and led to a lot of collaborations that were really cool. I mean, there was collaborations of Blueprint and Illogic with Slug from Atmosphere, with A$AP Rock and Cannibal Ox and these guys. So a lot of these artists were all working together. And Blueprint was a name that was buzzing. I think he had an EP out with RJD2 that kind of got me tuned into him, and then found this album and just loved all the different artists that were on this album. And my favorite song on this entire album ended up being a song on here by Illogic, a solo song, Lucky. And he had a couple other appearances on here, and it was clear just from Lucky and the two other appearances that Illogic was instantly one of my favorite MCs out there. Just uber talented, crazy vocabulary, very witty, wordplay like not. He had punchlines, but it's not traditionally like I think of punchline raps, like ridiculous wordplay. A guy that was obviously very well read and made it, very much someone that I was paying attention to and wanted to check for what he was doing. And at this time, it was downloaded music era, using, I don't know what I was using at that time, maybe LimeWire to download music. And immediately, once I got hip to Illogic from this, started downloading music I could find of his. Got Lyrics was an album that he put out in 2001. I was instantly blown away by. He had another album, Unforeseen Shadows. These were made when he was really young. And while I didn't ever get physical editions of those albums, they're, very formative albums to me that I was listening to a lot. And, in that 2003 to 2004 era. And then, got word that this album was starting to come, Celestial Clockwork, and it was going to be fully produced by Blueprint. And that was super exciting. That Weightroom, even though it was like a Blueprint label album, it's all his beats, and he's incredibly prolific beat maker as well as a great MC. So it was, super exciting to have him produce this full length. And when I tell you, he really did his thing. The beats on this album are incredible, and it's, you know, only surpassed by the level of rhymes that Illogic is putting down on this album. And, you know, varied type of songs and rhymes. Like every song on this Illogic album is incredible. And a really cool thing on the CD, it had little notes on here for every song from Illogic, what he was talking about, what his mind state was when recording the song. Not something that I really, if ever, see rappers do on their releases, whether it's CD, vinyl, putting those type of liner notes. There's been some backwoods releases, like limited ones, where Woods has put some stuff on there, but it's not something I see all that often. So, you know, if you don't have this CD, it's worth tracking down just to see those little descriptions that Illogic puts on the tracks, because this was an era of a lot of artists doing like concept songs, and this album is as good of an example of any, and why it stands the test of time so well, because, I mean, he has songs on here about a pregnant girlfriend and do you get an abortion or not, and how that affects the relationship. Songs about cheating in a relationship. And this is from a person who's very young, that's lived a lot. Very, very cool things on here. And again, the production just kind of like takes it to another level. 1000 Whispers, maybe the best song on here, just really an instant classic song. You hear this song, like you'll recognize, super popular, The Who song. It has a vocal clip from the movie Magnolia, a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So it has these like familiar things to your ears. But then Illogic just goes on this tirade of rhymes, just a stream of consciousness. And he says in the liner notes in this that he wrote this entire 1000 Whispers in 45 minutes. And it's like a literary genius work of art. It is so brilliant. The wordplay that is just in that one song is more than like better than what most artists have in their entire career. So if you're not familiar with this album, please like listen to this, get in tune with this. You can see for me how important it is. I bought it 3 times, and the bonus song on here, I just spun the new vinyl here just a minute ago, and it's not, you know, a song that I was like familiar with, and it's incredible. And then there's another song on here that was like a bonus song that was also on the original CD as a bonus song, hidden song. So that's on here too. It's not even listed on here on the back. So, you know, that's a surprise for anyone who gets this, whether it's on CD or vinyl. Illogic is a guy that I've stayed a fan of. Like, I actually reviewed this album that he did with Blockhead several years later. Let's see, this was 2012 when this came out. So this is when I was doing a blog in this era and doing album reviews. And this was one of the albums I really liked, and big fan of Illogic and Blockhead history there, with Blockhead being someone who produced for Aesop Rock, and history there with them working together. So that was a really cool album to see that come to fruition. And he still releases music, and I'm not quite as tapped in to what Illogic's, you know, doing these days, but man, I'm super excited to see him live. I spin, you know, this album, listen to Celestial Clockwork all the time. Truly a classic to me, and it's a really example of like how much hip-hop is out there. Incredible hip-hop from places you wouldn't necessarily expect, from, you know, Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. And, you know, these artists were just on par with all the best seminal underground work that was coming out of Def Jux in New York. And I don't think that they always get the level of credit that they deserve. But man, like, this is really special work that all these artists made. And, you know, if you get that Blueprint CD, you'll learn a lot of the other artists that were in this scene as well. But when I look back at like everything that came out of Weightless, from Blueprint, from Illogic, from all the other artists that they work with in Ohio, this album, Celestial Clockwork, this is the one that really stands the test of time to me. as a true classic, and really blows my mind, like the type of rhymes and the type of artistry that Illogic was able to give to the world at a very young age. He's an artist that we're all lucky to have, and this is an album that we're lucky to have and to be able to listen to. So if you're not familiar with Illogic, definitely get tuned into his music and Celestial Clockwork. And if you're here in Indy like me, look forward to seeing a great show here this Saturday, seeing him rock out at the fairgrounds here in Indianapolis. So that's all for today, y'all. Peace out, Uncle Benji. Till next time.